Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I want to talk about data storytelling. So in my last video, I mentioned that there's the Pacific Data Viz Challenge, right? And you are to create your data viz and all that. But in order for you to put all your project together, one component that's very important as well is the data storytelling. So I want to focus on that in today's video. So firstly, what is data storytelling? Well, data storytelling is the process of using data, visuals, and a narrative together to explain what happened, why it happened, and why it matters. Okay, so take note of these three components: the data, which you will already have. That's why you're watching this video, to know how to tell a story with the data you have. As for the visuals, we will discuss that in a future video, okay? But you have to choose the correct visual to present your findings, right? And finally, or the third component is the narrative. So that's what I want to focus on in today's video. So if you go over to ChatGPT and you just prompt it, how can I structure my narrative? Okay, what framework can I use? So ChatGPT will propose the different frameworks, the data storytelling frameworks that you can use. So a framework is basically a step-by-step process, a way of doing something, right? So everything has a framework. So data storytelling also has a framework. So the first one here, the SCQA framework. So that's the one that I used. Well, it happened to be ChatGPT's favorite one. Well, that's the one I used for my Power BI, for the Power BI project that I submitted in the Pacific Data Viz Challenge 2024. I'll show you guys after I go through the different storytelling frameworks. So I used exactly this framework to set up my project. So firstly, the situation, what's the current context? Give a background of what's going on, the complication, what's going on, what changed, what are the issues? And then you ask your question. So what do we need to understand? What do we need to do? What solution is there? And then you propose a solution. Of course, it depends on your data, the story that you want to tell. If you're trying to lead your target audience towards a specific answer, well, you can use the SCQA framework. And then you've got some other ones as well. Of course, the problem, the cause, and the solution. The data, the insight, and the action. Like, just go through the different frameworks that is proposed by your favorite AI of choice. Okay, I'll copy this one and I'll put all the different frameworks that ChatGPT proposed in the video description, so you can go through them and check it out yourself. Okay, so the key question to ask your AI tool is, I'm working on a data story. How can I structure the narrative for this data story, or what framework can you use, or can I use? So that's the key word here. What framework can I use in my data story? Okay, so now that's the way you structure your data story, the narrative. Choose a framework that's suitable to the data story that you want to tell. Now let me bring up my Power BI project. So this is the project that I did for the Pacific Data Viz Challenge 2024. So this is the my project that won the Pacific category in 2024. Okay, I'll put the link to the actual project at the end. But firstly, I just want to bring you to how I came up with this winning entry here. So the first thing I did was that I analyzed data in Power BI. Okay, if you're working with Power BI desktop, you know that you import the data and then you just add in the data. I mean, of course, you go through the process of building up, transforming your data, build up your data model. This is the data model I have behind this report. And then you go on and you create your calculations, follow the workflow. And then finally, you just add in the information to the page. You're just throwing everything out there to see, what's going on. So that's the first step. I went into this phase of exploratory analysis, just, checking out the data. Once I went through that, I also uploaded the data to AI to have an insight into, what information can I present. So I went through this exploratory, and then I put out the big numbers, okay, going through the total number of perpetrators, the victims, the children impacted, the different types of violence, whatever information that I have in my data set, okay. So based on all these findings here, I then went on to tell my data story. Okay, so this is not the original report. I translated everything to English, but the original one was exactly the same, but it was in French. Okay, so of course, when you're setting up your data story, you have to have some sort of color theme. So my main aim here with this background was that, the title to start off with is "Break the Silence, Encourage Open Discussions," right? So you see the chain breaking and the birds flying out. It sort of ties in with the title as well. Break the silence, the chains are broken, and encourage open discussions. So the birds are flying away. The color theme is purple. It goes with the subtitle. So trying to put all that together. Now let's act now. So this is my first page. So the first page sort of brings in or talks about the situation. As I mentioned, I follow the SCQA framework. So the first step was to present the current context, okay? So this is exactly what's going on, an overview of domestic violence. What came into play as well in each of the pages, you'll notice, is the title. Try to have a title that will summarize everything on the page, and then you can have a subtitle that sort of brings everything together, okay? The title and the subtitle sort of goes together, and then you're trying to present an overview of everything. The total number of perpetrators. For my case, for this project, total number of perpetrators, the total number of victims. This is the current situation, right? First step. The second page also tries to go into more details, adding more context about the current situation. So in this page, I try to focus on the housing conditions. Okay. And now I'm slowly reaching the complication. So what changed, or what problem emerged? So I'm sort of slowly getting into the second step here. So now I'm saying, look at the situation is that these are the different types of violence. Notice also that I used a lot of color in my, the colors were used intentionally to tell the story. So the physical, it's a bit darker and it lines up with the graph. Verbal, the word verbal lines up with the color of the bar chart, and psychological. Okay, so these are the three top types of violence, and the color code sort of flowed over as well to this line graph. The information that I didn't want to focus much on is important, but not to put too much focus on. I sort of grade it out. Okay, so it sort of goes back in the background, and the ones that I want to allow the audience to focus on, I put the emphasis on that. So that's why it's colored. Okay, so as you can see, the color font as well, all these color choices have a role to play in telling the story. Okay, so coming over to the fourth page. Now, in the midst of all that, notice the title as well. Okay, so if we start back in the very beginning, if I go over to the overview page, overview of domestic violence, 1,625 cases in total, recorded over 5 years. So the subtitle sort of summarizes everything on the page. Now moving over to the second page, economic insecurity and housing condition, challenges shared by victims and perpetrators, okay, giving an overview. Next, the type of violence, instilling terror in the homes. The most dominant forms of violence are physical, verbal, and psychological. Okay, sort of giving an overview still of the current situation. And now going over to the complication. Okay, the complication, this is the climax of the story, which I want the target audience to focus on, are the children. And as you can see the title, and in the midst of all this violence, there are the children. They are witnesses, they are impacted, but they are also victims. Okay, for me, this page here is like the conflict. That's the maximum climax of my data story. Okay. And of course, the way I laid it out as well, I've got a brief introduction up here and then supporting details of how children are impacted by domestic violence. And over to the fourth page, that's where I propose a solution, the community, a solution to break the silence. Okay, so now we're down to the answer. So the question part here, this was covering both the complication and question, sort of, right? So that was the climax of the story. You know, they are impacted. And then the community page, that's where I went into the answer. Okay, so I proposed a solution. Okay, the community, a solution to break the silence, right? And then I had supporting data as well to support my statement here. And of course, the last page was some recommendations. So this is like static, but imagine if you were to present it to an NGO group or whatever, you may, at the end, propose some actions, some recommendations. Okay, so this is my data story, which I followed using the SCQA framework, right? So if I wanted to add in more supporting details, okay, because of the framework that I already have in place, I can easily come over and add in more details. Or if I want to add in more details in regards to the conflict or the question, I know exactly in which part of my data story I can insert that additional information. So this is all possible because of the framework. So I highly recommend that you sort of look through, firstly, analyze your data, and then start thinking as well about the framework. How can I structure? What framework can I use to help me organize the flow of my data story? Okay, so that's all I have for today's video. So to not make this video too long, I'll stop here, and please ask your questions in the comments section below if you found this video helpful. If you're new to data storytelling, I will also put another video in the video description below of a previous video I did of the same project. Well, I hope you learned something new in this video about data storytelling and data storytelling frameworks. And until next time, I wish you all the best in your data storytelling projects, and I'll talk to you all in my next video.